Good evening. This is Lanner Smith from Sense and Memory, and tonight we're going to be reviewing a fragrance that was suggested to me by Diamond Diva Princess, and this fragrance is from the House of Rochas. And I thought, well, I have two fragrances by the House of Rochas, so I'm going to do one masculine and one feminine. But in the meantime, I'm going to make a cocktail, and we take 2 parts vodka, 1 part creme de cacao, you mix it up in a cocktail shaker. But wait, you don't pour it yet. First, you have to start off with a lacing of the glass with chocolate. Now this is a drink invented by Elizabeth Taylor and Rock Hudson on the set of Giant. And it is the classic chocolate martini. And there you have it. It's beautiful and it's so delicious. So stick with me, enjoy your chocolate martini, and find out what fragrance Diamond Diva Princess asked me to review. Cheers. Oh, chocolate goodness. Delicious. The first of the 2 fragrances I'm going to review by the House of Rochas, which is a French perfumery that's been around forever and ever, is the beautiful Globe. Now, Globe was created in 1991, and it's a leather. And I was looking for something for the longest time, for anything that came close to the original Chanel Pour Monsieur from 1955, and I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find that one because it was no longer being produced in the United States or distributed in the United States. It's still produced, but couldn't get it in the United States. And I came across this fragrance, which to me came pretty close, and so it became a favorite of mine in the 90s and the early part of this century. The nose behind this fragrance is Nicolas Mamounis, and he's also famous for Eau de Rocha from 1970 and something called Madagascar from 1980, both for the House of Rochas. And those I have not smelled, but I'm sure if it's any indication by this fragrance, they must be beautiful. Now, the main accords in this fragrance are aromatic, woody, fresh, spicy, balsamic, warm and spicy, and floral. So let me explain. It is a leather, but it does have floral notes that give it a kind of roundness and smoothness to that leather. It's not a rough leather, but a kind of suede-y kind of leather. The top notes are Artemisia, caraway, coriander, bergamot, and lemon. I'm going to put a little on. This is not a spray, but a splash bottle. So I'm wearing some right there, so I'm going to put it a little bit lower so I can get the top notes out of it. So the opening is really a fine mix of that caraway and coriander with the citruses of the bergamot and the lemon, which make it really sharp. Not in a bad way, but in a really good way, kind of a sharp, kind of snap of the finger kind of opening. Now, as it moves into the mid notes, there you find carnation. Carnation is really a gorgeous scent. It's spicy, or a note, I should say. It's a beautiful note. It's spicy. It's alive and a kind of smart note to put in fragrances. And a lot of men's fragrances have carnation. There's also fir, jasmine, caraway, lily of the valley, rose, and geranium. So there you have the flowers that come into the play with this leather fragrance. But I would say the strongest floral I get is that carnation, with just a hint of geranium. Now, the base notes in this are labdanum, leather, sandalwood, patchouli, musk, vetiver, and cedar. And when that leather comes up, as I said earlier, it's a smooth out kind of suede-y leather, but it is so beautiful. And there's that great vetiver and cedar that give it a woodiness and an earthiness. It is a classic fragrance from the very last decade of the 1900s, and it has that feeling of assured masculinity. Though I certainly do think a woman could really get away with this. It really is a wonderful fragrance. It's very smart, very sophisticated. It works both for men and for women. It really is a wonderful, wonderful fragrance. Now, on to the fragrance that was suggested to me to do a review by Diamond Diva Princess. And that fragrance would be the incredibly beautiful and quite coveted and very famous Femme by Rochas. It was created in 1943 in the midst of the Nazi occupation in Paris. And can you imagine, Paris has been taken over by the Germans. A lot of people have fled, but the perfume houses and a lot of the fashion houses stay open. Chanel closed her fashion house, but she still sold perfume. But imagine the kind of atmosphere that must have been going on in Paris at the time, and still people were being creative. It really is an interesting period in history. And there's definitely a wonderful book that I would suggest you read if you're interested in that period. The book is by Thilo Mazio, and it's called The Hotel on the Place Vendome, and it has a subtitle, something like Life and Death at the Hotel Ritz during the Nazi occupation. It is a fabulous book, and it will give you an idea of what life was like in Paris during World War II. But back to the fragrance, I digress. So the nose behind this fragrance is Edmund Rudeniska. He is most famous probably to us today for creating Eau Sauvage in 1966. Also, he created one of my favorite fragrances, which is Eau d'Hermès in 1951. He did a whole slew of fragrances for Dior and is considered a master nose in the history and lexicon of fragrance. Now, the main accords in this are woody, balsamic, fruity, sweet, earthy, and warm, spicy. It's a chypre fruity. Now, many of you know I don't care for fruity, sweet, fruity fragrances, floral fruities. The only time fruit in a fragrance works for me is in a chypre. And this one, it is so incredible. This is a classic fragrance from the 1940s. That's something that anyone who's interested in fragrance should definitely smell at least once. The top notes in this are apricot, plum, cinnamon, peach, bergamot, Brazilian rosewood, and lemon. I'm going to put a little on for the top notes, the opening notes. Here's a wonderful little bottle. I only have this little mini, and this is not from the 2013 release, but from the release that was reformulated in 1983 from the original recipe from 1943. The top notes are so bright and not sweet in a bad way, but like fresh fruit is sweet. You can almost bite into that plum. It really is very plummy, apricot-y, plummy, just really, really nice. And there's cinnamon sprinkled all over it, so it really makes it almost verging on a tart or a plum pie. And as you move into the middle notes, now that's up here, the middle notes are carnation, rosemary, fir, jasmine, iris, ylang-ylang, rose, and cloves. And the cloves really pop up in the middle and add a spiciness to that carnation and the rosemary and the jasmine and that wonderful ylang ylang is laced through with this incredible fur. So it's kind of like this fruit and flower garden or grove near the Mediterranean, where a lot of fir trees grow along the coast in the south of France. It is so incredible. And the bottom notes, now here we are connected with Globe. The biggest note down there in the bottom is leather. So these both have a great leather feeling going through them. There's amber, patchouli, musk, benzoin, vanilla, and a beautiful, beautiful oak moss. Now this is an old bottle, so it might be real oak moss that I'm smelling. And it is, in that dry down, that oak moss just gives it such sophistication and panache. So there you have my take on two classic fragrances from the House of Rochas. The beautiful and sophisticated Globe, and the equally beautiful and equally sophisticated and much more sexy Femme. So this is Lanier Smith saying, remember, wear what you love and not what they say you should like.